weeks ago at Brands Hatch. Here is how your grid lines up. It's Bobby Very, who was P2 at Brands Hatch, with Christian Smith, who's in championship contention alongside them. Bjorn Esmond, as I said, returning on the outside of that front row of the grid. Row 2 is headed by Kenny McLeod, with James Ellison and Reese Coates for company. Then it's Liam Vella on row 3, with Lee Devonport and Aaron Dakin alongside. Holly Preble heads row 4 with Paul Barker and Joe Carnell for company. The 5th row is James Seath, Josh Smith and Darren Fry from the FS3 Kawasaki team, with Leon Wilton, Ben Rubicki and then Nick Heath on row 6. Andy Booth completing the 19-rider strong field. A reminder that there is no last chance qualifier here this weekend, and we've got all of the riders who will be competing in this race who will be lining up on the grid for the main event here tomorrow afternoon as well. Looking forward to seeing how this one is going to go down. Danny, slightly overcast, a little bit cooler than the conditions we were used to at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, it's interesting to see how much quicker the lap times are here compared to when we were at the start of the season.
Yeah, and all the guys along the grid will be probably being thankful for that, because Brands was hot. But yeah, Old Park, technical track, physical track as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the lap times compare to, and because they've already got a very good base setting here.
Absolutely, yeah. Bobby Very, as we say, heading this grid from pole position. Keep an eye out and see how he will get on with Christian Smith, who, as I said, is in championship contention. He is tied on points with his younger twin brother for second in the standings, just some 6 points away from Nicky Coates at the top of the table. So there's a good opportunity for them to really chink into the armour of Coates after what happened in Heat 1 especially. But they line up then on the grid. There is Bobby Very on pole position, riding with the number 88 this season. He was at number 59 last season, so that might be a little bit different if you're just tuning in for the first time. But there he is on board the machine on pole position. And we'll see how he's going to get on that home run machine. So, 19 riders taken to the grid, then green flag is waved at the back. It's 8 laps of action ready to go here at Oulton Park for Heat 2 of the BMW F900R Cup. Very on pole position with Christian Smith and Bjorn Esmond alongside. Red lights are on, lights are out. Great start from Very. Nice one as well, though, from Christian Smith off the middle of the front row. Bjorn Esmond lingers his way down towards the first corner and gets dragged. And look, though, at James Ellison coming through from the middle of the second row to get the whole shot into turn 1. Runs it slightly wide on the exit, though, of Old Hall Corner. That leaves him vulnerable to the challenge and the charge of the other riders from behind, and subsequently it's now Christian Smith who is in front from James Ellison, and then Bobby Very, a pole sitter, slotting into third.
What a start from James Ellison. He kind of did that, under the radar. He didn't get a super launch, but the launch he got was so consistent all the way down to turn 1 that he managed to just surprise probably all of his competitors there, especially Bobby Very.
So Kenny McLeod now up into 4th place, with Bjorn Esmond trying to challenge for that position as they make their way through Shell Oils for the first time. But for Bjorn Esmond's great return to the championship, he really enjoyed going out there and riding that F900R Cup bike a couple of weeks ago at Brands Hatch. 39 years of age he is. He used to compete in British Supersport and Superbike. He's now a personal assistant to Brad Binder in MotoGP as well. He's been doing that job for the last couple of seasons, but decided to go out and ride on a motorbike for the first time in a good few years, and he's having fun out there. And could be a bit of a disruptor in terms of the championship battles that are going on. Likewise, James Ellison, Kenny McLeod, etc. All these riders who are at the sharp end of the field. If you look at Christian Smith and Bobby Very, they're all in championship contention and want to get as maximum points as possible. Some other riders don't have as much skin in the game. No, exactly that. And yeah, just going back to Bjorn up the inside there at Druid, lovely move, very hard to do. I spoke to him after Brands Hatch and he said, mate, he loved it. He said, and he had so much fun. And sorry, just getting back to the race though, Tom. Bobby Very here making quick work of James Ellison. He knows that Christian Smith will get away if he doesn't get to the front quickly, and he had a lot of pace in qualifying, 44.1. So he knows that, again, crucial points are up for grabs. They need to make moves and they need to get to the front of these heat races. Yeah, for Ellison as well, he's been sort of flirting with coming back to this championship full time in 2026, and it's good for him because we've seen him at every round but for Nog Hill, and he's had some good pace and performance underneath him as well. He's been on the F900R Cup grid in various different forms over the last couple of years, now sitting there in 3rd place, and this is a track that he always went well at in British Superbikes here. So nice to see him performing well and challenging for 3rd position there as he duels with Bjorn Esmond once again. Meanwhile, at the front end of this one, Bobby Very closing the gap down to race leader Christian Smith, who's on that Batham's Racing BMW. As you said, Danny, important for him to make that ground really in the opening stages of this one. The last thing you want to do is let the rider in front clear off into the distance and give yourself so much hard work to do that you can't catch up before the checkered flag comes out.
No, exactly that. And, you know, for the championship, in a championship perspective, his brother's just won the heat race. And obviously, you know, that's going to be...
James Ellison on the inside of Hizzy's there and gets his way through on Bobby Berry. That might open the door here for Bjorn Esmond to join in the party as well. So again, that's just how it ebbs and flows here. You got Bobby Berry, who was closing down, was in a couple of bike lengths of Christian Smith a couple of moments ago, and now suddenly he's back down into third and being challenged for fourth.
Yeah, it's such a difficult track as well, because you've got a lot of fast and flowing stuff, and when you get the bike set up right here, you have to have it set up for hard braking for the chicanes and for Shell and, you know, into last turn here, but you also need it to be sat in the right position for the fast and flowy stuff. So it's a very difficult track, and it takes a lot of work to get the bike completely right here for each sector. But yeah, as I was just alluding to earlier, like, Christian Smith knows that he's got to try and pull back some points on his brother because he won that heat race.
Yeah, needs to do so, as you say there. James Ellison through on the inside at Old Hall. That's going to push Berry to the curb on the outside. That was pretty robust, actually, and a shake of the head there from Bobby Berry. Not happy with the etiquette from James Ellison there.
What etiquette?
Exactly.
Sorry, that was very sexist of me to say that. What etiquette?
So gets the move done, does James Ellison, and all the while Christian Smith, fastest lap last time around. He'll be having the notice on the pit board. Had an 0.8 of a second advantage as Berry again tries to get back through on Ellison into Island Bend. Can't make anything stick into there. Shell Oils is so difficult to get one made on the inside unless you run your other competitor out to the outside of that corner and off of the sort of camber on the inside. Then it's so hard to make anything stick because you can roll so much speed through there.
Yeah, it all comes from Island Bend. You have to be so much quicker through Island Bend to get alongside him for Shell, because obviously you're travelling a further distance if you're on the outside of Island Bend on the inside of Shell.
So down the back straight we go in towards Hizzy's. Let's have another look here then at Ellison on the inside of Berry down into Old Hall. So he's got the move made there, but it's sort of mid-corner. He sits up right towards the exit and then just pushes Berry to the curb.
Yeah, to be fair though to James, he was up the inside, he was clearly ahead, and Bobby Berry let the brake off to try and run around the outside of him, and you're not going to do that too easy to an expert superbike rider because they're just going to use all the track, which James did. So in my view of that one, nothing wrong doing by James Ellison. Bobby Berry should have probably, you know, either just gassed it up and dealt with it or slowed it down and tried to get himself up the inside.
Well, and he's now got himself on the inside as he come through in towards Lodge Corner, back through for second place. All the while, they can see Christian Smith clearing off into the race distance over the line for Smith last time around, a 1:45.2, so an even faster lap, and a gap now up to 1.2 seconds. So he's, again, clearing off into the distance as we expected the elder Smith twin to do on that Bathans BMW. And it's just seeing now these four riders behind who are beginning to drop back, and you wonder whether Berry is going to have anything left in his locker, because 1.1 seconds doesn't sound like a lot of time, but in racing terms, I mean, you can see visibly how much room that is and how much of a gap he's now got to make up.
Yeah, and Christian Smith is having a perfect race, because in terms of being a motorcycle racer, these are the races you want. You get out front, you just click the laps by, you hit your markers, the pit board gap increases, and you win the race. And it's so boring for us to watch, but it is the best feeling as a racer. So he's doing a fantastic job there. Bobby Berry's probably going to be a little bit frustrated, and I really think the next half of this race, or the last half of this race, I really think we're going to see him pumped up, a bit angry from being held up by James, that he's going to come back.
Well, when you're in this position, Danny, put me behind the helmet and on the bike, so you've got to close a gap down of 1.1 seconds. How are you doing that? How are you managing to sort of bridge that gap?
You literally are just looking at every moment they're braking, they're accelerating, the lines they're taking, and you're just trying to just go a little bit better, you know. Let's say there's 12, 15 corners of a track. You are just trying to be that little bit better each corner, each time. And, you know, before you know it, it has a good effect on the gap. And, you know, you go over the line, you've closed it by 0.2, it just eggs you on and just gives you a right kick. And that's why it's easier to follow than it is to lead. Esmond
on the inside here of James Ellison, two former Superbike riders duelling for the final podium place. And Ellison loses out briefly there, but I think he's going to get a better drive here onto the start-finish line. Drag alongside Esmond for the inside line into Old Hall, but Esmond's going to try and phone around the outside and sits up Ellison mid-corner. There was contact between the two. A wave of the arm there from James Ellison. I mean, it was aggressive and robust from Ellison a couple of laps ago we saw on Bobby Berry, but that was even more aggressive on Ellison.
Yeah, that was a little bit naughty, that was. I'd like to look at this again. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, look, he's up the out. Yeah, I don't know.
So the thing is, Esmond's obviously sweeping around the outside. He thinks he's got the line and got the overspeed. He's just trying to roll off and carry the momentum through the corner. Problem is that obviously Ellison's a little bit closer than I imagine he realised he was.
Yeah, but it looked like where Ellison was going to turn in, he sort of couldn't and didn't, and he stayed, upright. So where Bjorn anticipated him turning in, he didn't. So, yeah, a bit of a strange one, that one. I could probably watch that 10 more times and still not have an answer. But at the front there, Christian Smith has been caught rapidly that last lap by Bobby Very.
0.6 of a second he took out of him on lap 4 alone there for Bobby Very. He knows that he needs maximum points here and as good a chance of getting as high up the grid as possible for the main event tomorrow afternoon. And now he's right on the back here of Christian Smith, who I wonder if he's just backed off slightly to give himself a bit of breathing space, bit of wiggle room and maybe a little bit more life left in the tyres in the final third of this one. We're coming towards the final couple of corners, and let's see whether Very will be challenging before the end of this lap or whether it's going to be next time around. But certainly Very looks to have more pace and more performance underneath him at the moment, unless, as we say, Smith is just leaving something in the locker. Very through on the inside though, down into Lodge corner, holds the line, runs it a little bit deep, which might compromise his drive on towards the start finish straight. You can see they come over the crest of the hill then. Christian Smith is now going to have the advantage of the slipstream, that hole in the air being punched in front of him, and can't quite make anything stick though in towards the first corner. But just give you an idea of lap times last time around, Very 1:44.6, Christian Smith a 1:45.2. So an amazing amount of time that Very was able to just chink into the armour of the elder Smith twin. And now suddenly he's back through into the race lead for the first time in a while.
Yeah, and just for perspective, compared to Heat 1 races, the leaders here are very similar paced to what Kieran Smith managed, so that should make for an exciting main event.
Yeah, a reminder that the grids, of course, are determined by the fastest lap for the main event, but the top 6 is decided by a lottery, essentially. All the numbers go into a hat, and then they pull the numbers out of the hat, and that's how they line up on the grid for the main event. So we don't know the top 6 positions of the grid, but we will know from 7th and onwards once the 2 races have concluded, and we've got all of the lap times in and on the board. Christian Smith looking to try and retaliate down the hill in towards Hizzies. I always think this is such a great part of the track. I mean, the problem is that we do see so many incidents there because riders get so sucked in by just letting a little bit too off the brake, and then suddenly you're going straight into the runoff area. Yeah,
God, Christian Smith so fast through there. That was really good, and he was really trying to build himself up to make a move there. Let's see next lap if that happens, Tom. But yeah, down on the hill there, it's really hard because you get caught out because you come over the hill, you'll be in the slipstream, the guy in front will pull to the left, and you have to be very, very, very accurate with your braking there, because if you're not, you end up braking so late because you have such a buffer and you can go through the slip road if you need to, through the chicane. You end up just braking so hard and so over-committed into there that it's it's easy to get wrong. But Christian Smith there through that last section was so good.
Bobby Very leads the way over the line as we head in towards the first corner then for the penultimate time. Bobby's had a distinguished racing career at a club level, but jumped onto the F900R Cup bikes last year, did win in a couple of races, finished 13th overall with 75 points, despite the fact he only raced in 3 of the rounds in the championship. And now he's leading the way against the elder Smith twin of Christian at the moment, in towards Island Bank. And Christian think about launching one on the inside. He's not quite there as it stands for now, maybe just trying to sort of force an issue from Bobby Very, wait for the right opportunity to pounce, and maybe a dress rehearsal coming along the way for that final lap, because if you're going to make it into there, you've got to know that you can make it stick. We saw in Heat 1 what happens when you're sort of making a move and it's a bit half-cocked.
Hesitate.
Just hearing that there's a notice coming through on race direction, saying there's a 3-place grid penalty for Josh Corner for that collision we saw with Nicky Coates in the first heat. So that's going to be an interesting one once it's all worked out.
Yeah, this, sorry Tom, is where Christian is fast. Look, he's a bit tight there. He carries a really nice line through here. And I think he's going to try and build up a move into Druids. If he doesn't make Druids work, he's going to then have a go at the last place, which he can, into Lodge. So we could see a little dress rehearsal here. We might see him just try and make the move and get to the front and lead the last lap.
Yep, through in towards Druids we go, under towards the Warwick Bridge, and as we head towards Lodge Corner. Defending the line there briefly for Bobby Very, but Christian Smith having a look, going hard on the brakes and just trying to roll the momentum through on the inside. You see Very's actually a little bit wide going through that last turn, and again that might cost him a bit of drive on towards the start-finish straight here and leaving vulnerable to the advances of Kieran Smith. We begin the final lap then here of Heat 2 of the F900R Cup, and there's no room at the end so far for Smith to launch his way through on Bobby Very, but that bike of Very's is starting to make a few more shapes and a few more moves now, which leads me to believe he's starting to push the limits a bit more. Yeah,
I don't think Christian Smith was too bothered about trying to pass there. I think he's having a little look at what he's got. He was early on the gas there. I think he's going to have a little go into Island Bend here.
A reminder that the top 2 rows of the grid for the main event tomorrow decided by a ballot, so let's see which order it's going to work out in terms of the race here with Very versus Christian Smith down in towards Shell Oils. No dramas like we saw on the final lap of the first heat a few minutes ago, and Very holding firm against the challenge of Christian Smith for now. We're coming towards the chicane then of Britain's. Can't really make anything stick on the inside through there, but it's all about the exit, all about the punch out of this corner and lining something up as they come down the hill in towards Hizzies then. And Christian Smith will know that. He'll know that he needs to make a block pass here on Bobby Very, but he's just a bit too far away. He's not within enough distance to close it through, but Very was a bit deep on the apex there. And again, that pushes him slightly offline and allows Smith to close up. A good run through Druids and up the hill will certainly help his cause there as we head over the rise. And Smith looking for the move against Bobby Very, but can't quite find any room at the moment.
No, he's running really defensively, Bobby. He's got different lines and a little bit slower in places, but Christian just cannot pass in those places. Let's see if he's going to get up the inside here, Tom, and line it up into the last turn. Yeah,
it's going to be a Hail Mary, surely in towards Lodge Corner if Smith is going to think about it, but he's not close enough. He knows that second is OK for now, and unless he can get good drive out of the final corner. Tighter line might help his charge, but Very and Smith then driving to the checkered flag here at Oulton Park, and it is Bobby Very who takes a win from Christian Smith, and then Bjorn Esmond will come over the line in third position ahead of Kenny McLeod and James Ellison inside of the top 5. Further down the order, we've hardly mentioned them all race, but Reese Coates as well as Aaron Dakin in the mix there, as well as Liam Vella, Harley Preble, Lee Devonport, all challenging for the final places on the top 10 as well. And there's some good battles going on here with James Seath versus, looks to be the number 16, I beg your pardon, of Josh Smith. And they're squabbling just outside of the top 10. Seath getting the better of Smith at the checkered flag. But an exciting end to that race then. And another great ride from Bobby Very on board the number 88, giving him as many points as he could possibly get in the heats. And also a good opportunity to line up as far up the grid for the main event tomorrow afternoon. I make that his 5th heat victory of the season for the rider from Preston in Lancashire.
It's all points.
Absolutely.
It's all points, and it's confidence as well, you know. Good lap time there, 44.3. Competitive. I think we're going to see the top 3 or 4 tomorrow doing, you know, the 44s, and yeah, stands him in good stead for tomorrow. Held on well. His lines were a little bit different to others, so yeah, let's see how that unfolds tomorrow.
Yeah, reminder, no last chance qualifier for the F900R Cup this weekend as a result of a couple of riders who dropped out from the entry list, so they all progress forwards into the main event on Sunday afternoon. Another good ride there for Bjorn Esmond, faded a bit towards the end of that race, but I think he'll be relatively pleased with another 3rd position for the South African rider. But for Kieran Smith there, P2, look, I've got to be honest, you know, he could have launched one through on the inside, but I think he'll have had in his mind what we saw at the end of the first heat, Danny. There's often more to lose than there can be to gain in circumstances like that.
Yeah, and in fairness, I don't think he could have done it. I think Bobby Very had him covered. I think he broke nice and late there. He made it hard work for anyone to make a move on him. So, yeah, the risk outweighed the reward massively there.
Well, the riders making their way back in towards Parc Fermé after a flourishing end to that second heat in the F900R Cup. There is Bjorn Esmond, the South African rider. Hopefully it's not the last time we see him out this season after competing in the last couple of weekends at Oulton Park. Depends on if there's any MotoGP clashes, I suppose, really, if he's got to be alongside Brad Binder in the KTM garage.
You'll have to go, Tom. You'll have to take his place, mate. I'll put a referral into Brad. See if we can get Bjorn swapped out, let him race the bikes, and you can go and do that. Yeah,
perfect. I'm always good at polishing a few things. You know how it is. Anyway, in towards the Parc Fermé we go then for these riders. There is Bobby Very. Great ride from the rider from Preston in Lancashire, then on board his home run machine.
With the Schwantz replica there, look.
Lovely looking lid, isn't it? Timeless. And for Bobby Very, a very well-deserved victory. Let's get confirmation of the results from Heat 2 of the Rocket Off BMW F900R Cup. It's Vary who takes the win from Christian Smith and Bjorn Esmond. Kenny McLeod in P4 on board the True Heroes racing machine ahead of James Ellison. The three riders just on the back of that group faded a little bit towards the end of it, but nonetheless strong results for them ahead of Reece Coates. Then Aaron Dakin, Liam Vella, Harley Preble and Lee Devonport completing the top 10 ahead of James Seath and Josh Smith, who were duelling to the checkered flag. Joe Carnell, Paul Barker and Darren Fry completing your top 15. All 19 riders who started that race made the checkered flag.